Okay, we're back at the press box for the spring 2015 season. I'm Nathan LaPierre.
I'm Matt Newman.
And I'm Brendan Randolph.
So we've got some missing friends today, clearly, but that's all right. The sports world never sleeps, and we never sleep either.
except over winter break, but that's fine.
Because we're bringing you the sports news. So let's kick it off with some Mason sports. Mason basketball, obviously.
Yeah. So we just had our game against Davidson. It's really hard to talk about because
It's a little heartbreaking.
It was definitely a heartbreaker for our team. We're going up against a team that was, I think, 13-4 at the time. Now they're 14-4 because they beat us on in overtime on what I think was a very winnable game for us.
I would say it was winnable too.
Yeah.
We were up 6 with 20 seconds, 15
Something
seconds
like
left.
that.
And we missed a free throw. The defense broke down on the first 3, and the guy, Oscar, whatever his name was, number 15, was wide open in the corner, and he hit the 3. And then Jalen Jenkins went to the foul line, and then he missed 2 free throws, and then they came back and hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things where if you looked at the win probability, it was probably in the high 90s, maybe even 99%.
Yeah.
We still.
Yeah.
I mean, I know,
Couldn't
basketball
come up
is
with
one of those games that can change on a whim like that, but it was just like I can't, we ideally would have liked Jalen Jenkins to make those 2 free throws at the end, but I have seen him make those in the clutch before, so you just got to think of that as an aberration. I mean, that number 3 was shooting lights out all game. I gotta give a big hand out to Corey Edwards and Miles Tate.
Yeah.
They shut him down for most of the second half. He went off in the first half, but they really stuck. Once Miles Tate started hounding him, I thought they did a really great job of keeping him under a pretty low shooting percentage.
Right.
But he hit the one when it mattered most. At the end of the game, we had 2 clear chances to win, in my opinion. We could have if we had hit one of those foul shots, they would have had to make. It would have been a 2-basket game, or if we had a foul. We could have just fouled him and given him 2 free throw shots at the very end. That's what I was thinking that the entire time they were going up the court. I was like, just foul him.
Just foul him as he's bringing the ball up. Then they have to shoot 2 free throws.
Yeah.
And they have to try and go for the offensive rebound.
Yeah, they have to do something crazy to make that happen. So, I guess we live and we learn.
Yep. Free throws are free points, and it hurts, but it evened out because Kenneth Fareed also missed 2 against the Wizards.
Woo! Rather have Mason win.
I would rather have Mason win. But anyways, it's all right. We will live and we'll learn. So,
So now that we're talking about the NBA, we can talk about the All-Stars a little bit. What do y'all think of the starting lineups?
Yes. Well, shout-outs to John Wall first and foremost because he deserves it this year. He's really stepped his game up, and I'm proud.
Averaging double-digit assists.
He's first in the league in assists right now as of this recording. So definitely, shout-outs to him. I mean, clearly his game has matured a lot, and he's still only 24, I think. So, and Beal is 22. So
got a good young core.
The future is bright, and especially if we get the servant in town.
The servant.
Kevin Durant. Yes.
I'm going
2016.
I'm going to keep calling him the Durantula because
that's
a much better nickname.
Or the Slim Reaper, but not the servant. Sorry, KD.
No.
We're not going to call you that anymore.
Yeah.
Never.
What did you think of him not making the All-Star first team?
Yeah, he was injured, so I understand it, but I do think it's pretty stupid that they have 2 power forwards and a center. That would be Blake Griffin, Anthony Davis, and Marc Gasol. I like Marc Gasol as the center for the squad. Anthony Davis has been arguably the best player so far, so he absolutely deserves it. Blake Griffin, there's a little bit of media hype there. I mean,
he's having a good season, but
he's having a good season.
It's just Lob City.
I would not pick him for the power forward. I'd pick Anthony Davis.
Right.
And he's not really a small forward, but it's the All-Star game, so who cares?
The fans voted.
Yeah. The fans voted. But that's surprising because Kevin Durant has a high profile.
Yeah.
But he was injured for part of the year, so I understand.
Yeah.
Right.
But of course, I think the biggest travesty every year is when Kobe Bryant gets in and he doesn't deserve it. He's injured. He hasn't been very good the last few years. And it's really just, you can say you're honoring his legacy or whatever, but really what you're doing is you're just holding someone out who's worked really hard all year and is now not going to make the All-Star game. And I think it's unfortunate. I think we can agree it'll probably be James Harden who takes
James
that
Harden's
spot.
going to start.
Yeah, so, and, all will be well in the end, I guess, but it's still, that's just how it's going to go for fan voting, I guess, until he retires, basically.
Yeah. What y'all think of Steph Curry getting the most votes?
He absolutely deserves that because Steph Curry has just been on another planet as far as shooting the ball has been concerned this season.
Yeah.
And also the Golden State Warriors, I believe, still have the best record in the NBA.
Yeah,
They've
I
only
think
got,
so.
6 losses?
Yeah, and the only team that's close is the Hawks of all teams.
I don't think they had that many people. Didn't have anyone make the.
No, because they really don't
No.
have any single all-star. I think Paul Millsap has a chance as a reserve. I think Millsap is arguably the best player on that team. And Jeff Teague could be a reserve too. They're
Yeah.
I mean, they have a very consistent starting lineup, but it's just surprising. You look at the roster and you're like, how can this team only have 8 losses at the All-Star break?
Right. I mean, they've won, 27 of their last 29 games.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
you have to
16
give
in a row.
You have to
Yeah.
give a lot of credit to Coach Mike Budenholzer, I believe his name is. He was the assistant coach of the Spurs, and a lot of people are now calling the Hawks the Spurs East because of the way they play.
Well, I mean,
Days in the East.
what you were saying, like if they don't have like when you look at the Spurs, you're not like, oh gosh, they have like this one standout player. It's just they have.
Well, not anymore. Tim Duncan in his prime was one of the best players.
Well, yeah.
Right.
But like at this point in
But at this point in their careers, they do it.
I would even say Tim Duncan is still one of the best centers in the West. I mean, it's amazing. He's the one guy who he's never seems to get worn down. It's incredible. And I actually had the privilege of seeing him live the other night, and I mean, it was amazing. Yeah, when the Wizards played the Spurs, it was a great game.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard was out, and I think the Spurs are going to be on an upward trajectory now that they have Leonard back, and they had Tony Parker out for a while too. So
Yeah.
anyways. And shout-outs to Klay Thompson the other night, too, for that
37
insane,
points.
We have to mention the record-breaking 37-point third quarter and season-high tying 52 points, so definitely incredible.
Pretty good job, but I still will take John Wall.
Yeah.
Hometown favoritism.
Yeah. So that's it for the NBA. They're on break for a little bit, and it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. I also want to give a quick mention to the NHL All-Star Game where the score was 17-12. Rather ridiculous. But moving on to the NFL, which is obviously major right now because the Super Bowl is coming up.
What's the Super Bowl? No, I'm just kidding. Everyone knows the Super Bowl season.
Everyone knows. And this coming Sunday will be the Seahawks versus the Patriots, as we all know, in Glendale, Arizona. So, but recently, the Super Bowl has not been the subject of discussion because people have instead been talking about Deflategate, which, for those of you who don't know, is basically 11 of the 12 Patriots footballs were found to be deflated below the league's standard accepted pressure. So this has naturally erupted in controversy. So thoughts on Deflategate?
Well, also when a football is deflated, it allows a person to grip the ball better, just to have like better handling, better catching abilities. So it is a competitive advantage for the Patriots because if they are playing with deflated footballs, it would make it easier for them to catch the ball, whereas the Colts are playing with a different set of footballs and they don't have that same advantage. So I do see, why people are upset about that, especially with the Patriots' track record when it goes back to the whole Spygate incident. They've done I feel like they almost have like a little bit of like a shady reputation in the league, whether that be deserved or not. So it's a big story, and I'm very curious to see how the NFL moves forward. I don't think any action is going to be taken at the Super Bowl or before. I think it's all going to be either like draft picks, perhaps, significant fines, maybe even like a suspension of like the coach or something. I mean, when you have Sean Payton being
suspended for the entire year for Bountygate.
Yeah, when that's not something that like he was directly overseeing, but like this is another something that you could say Bill Belichick may not have directly overseen, but it's like it ends with him, so that he might have to take some responsibility for that. Ultimately, I think they still deserve to go to the Super Bowl. I don't think the underinflated football is made. What they wouldn't.
Well, because in the second half they played with regularly inflated footballs, and that's when they blew the game open.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah. The only thing that I have about this entire thing is I just wonder why. I mean, why do they even bother deflating the footballs to begin the game in the first place? Because you're going into the AFC Championship game against the Colts.
They're going to beat the Colts.
Which is a team that they've had the Colts number for basically since I
For
started
Luck's
watching
entire
football.
career. Yeah.
Yeah.
For Luck's entire career, most of Manning's career as well.
Right.
So there really wasn't even a need to gain a competitive advantage per se in a game against the Colts because you could probably go out and just beat them anyway.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that I find kind of mystifying. They don't even need those competitive advantages. They're at home too. That's the other big thing. So I was just confused as to why they would do it. Unless you're going to say just because it's the Patriots and they do these sort of things. But
I just think, I think there's someone there, whoever is responsible is very paranoid and determined to like push the boundaries to whatever advantage they can get. And of course, what's being lost in all of this is the investigation is not even complete. So we really don't know the details of who is responsible. It's entirely possible that the Patriots submitted underinflated balls to the refs, and the refs just kind of, seems good to me, and submitted it. In which case, it's the refs' fault because they're supposed to check those things. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was talking about how he submits overinflated balls and they deflate them. So, and the NFL probably doesn't want to, be like, oh, whoops, it's our fault. So there's that too, and it's entirely It's entirely possible it's the refs' fault. It's possible it's the Patriots' fault. Belichick's or Brady's. Who knows? And, we'll have to see from this controversy. Obviously, me being a Patriots fan, I'm a little biased on this issue. I think it's overblown, pun intended. I think if there were any other team, it would be a $25K fine like the rules suggest, and we would be done with it. Obviously, of course, because of the Patriots having the Spygate thing, it's going to be hyped up more, and I think especially the media wants something to talk about leading up to the Super Bowl, wants some big storyline, so they have it, and it's not like people are always trying to equate it to different things to Bountygate, whereas Bountygate was not explicitly breaking the rules, it was just like trying to end players' careers, which is morally.
I think that's more bad.
I think it's a bigger issue than deflating a football.
I would say so, and it was pretty especially because nobody could even tell until the end of the first half. So it's not like they were like throwing a saucer, okay? So,
they found out off of a Colts interception. They found out after DeQuell Jackson intercepted.
And a lot of what was originally reported was wrong, too. They said DeQuell Jackson was like, oh, this ball is underinflated, and then later he comes out and says, oh, I didn't know. I just gave it to the equipment manager. And so a lot of the originally reported things have been incorrect here. So we'll have to wait till the investigation completes. I agree that there's not going to be any sanctions for the Super Bowl. I don't think Belichick or Brady is going to be suspended for the Super Bowl.
That would be too much.
No way.
That would be too much, and we'll see what happens next year. My guess would be if the Patriots are found to be guilty, there will be a fine, and maybe Belichick will get suspended for part of the season. But yeah, I think it's pointless. This issue has to be dealt with on its own merit. I don't think necessarily because of Spygate this has to become as big of a controversy as Spygate, which I think was a worse offense. It's different from Bountygate and shouldn't be compared, and it's different from Chris Canty from the Ravens tried to compare it to PEDs, which I also disagree with. It's also a different issue. I mean, the Ravens have had PED issues themselves with Haloti Ngata recently. The Seahawks, famously, a lot of their players have taken Adderall. They had 5 suspensions in the last few years for that. Richard Sherman himself, who, as Brenton mentioned before the show, was like, oh yeah, they're not going to care about the Patriots cheating. He himself was found to have taken Adderall, and they just ended up throwing out the case because of a technicality. Basically, the urine sample was collected. It was collected improperly.
Right.
So there's always, you're a really competitive sport. Everyone's trying to push the boundaries. And this stuff happens, and if it's the Patriots' fault, it's unfortunate. Again, they didn't need it to beat the Colts, so just silly and paranoid, and we'll see. But I don't think anything is going to affect the Super Bowl.
No, I can imagine getting draft picks lost.
Yeah, I think it's going to be draft picks.
I could see that.
That's entirely
possible. And I feel like even if it was the Patriots' fault, I feel like they could have really handled it a lot better. I mean, you had Tom Brady, like you said, going out there and just throwing out non-answers to some of these questions. And then you have Bill Belichick basically holding a science symposium about the physics of footballs and air pressure. And I'm just like you could almost just be they might have been underinflated, but it wasn't our fault. You could have go blame the ball boy or something.
I guess they don't want to throw anyone under the bus.
Yeah.
Especially because that's even worse. I mean, if they're not telling the truth, that's bad, and if they're not telling the truth and blaming somebody else, that's even worse.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I honestly think one or both of them doesn't actually know what happened, and we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible that Belichick didn't know, but Brady did, or it's hard to say without the investigation being complete.
I say let's try to shift our focus to the big game.
I agree, and I totally agree with that. I think it has been overblown. And back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Thoughts, predictions, bold predictions.
Bold predictions. I think it's gonna be higher scoring than people think it will be. I think, in a game in which I personally have dislike for both teams, but I'm gonna throw that out the window. I'm gonna actually have the Patriots winning 35-31.
Oh boy. I don't think it'll be that high scoring, honestly. But I'm going to have 21-17, and I'm going to go ahead and say the Seahawks are going to win. But I think Rob Gronkowski will have a pretty big game because the Packers, they were able to expose some of the flaws of the Seahawks over the middle early in the NFC Championship game. And if the Patriots can do the same thing with Rob Gronkowski, I think that'll help them out. But I still think the Seahawks will end up winning the game.
Yeah, I'm going to say 24-20 Patriots. I think we can all agree it's going to be a really close game. I thought it was funny when the one Seahawks backup cornerback was like, Rob Gronkowski's not that great. Even though he's, he was by a mile the best tight end in the league this year.
Why would you give them bulletin board material? Why?
It's dumb. So thoughts on specific matchups. As far as they go for me, I think the key for the Seahawks is going to be getting pressure on Brady. That's what the Giants were able to do in the last couple of Super Bowls, and I think when he's not comfortable in the pocket, that's when he starts to be less than fantastic. I think guys like Michael Bennett are going to be key, Bruce Irvin,
Cliff Averill,
a lot of those pass rushers, and also So getting that pressure on Brady is going to be key because then his passing game isn't on point. You're able to bring more defenders into the box and stop the run game, and it makes it really tough for us. The key for the Patriots, I think, is going to be, defensively, they have the potential to do a really good job stopping the Seahawks offense. The key is they have to be able to stop the run game. Obviously, we all know Marshawn Lynch and Russell Wilson running the ball accounts for like 70% of their offense. The passing game, I think, is going to be I think it's something the Patriots can stop because I think Doug Baldwin is a perfect matchup for Revis. I don't see Baldwin making impact, and then you really have Curse and Luke Wilson as the other two impact players on the Seahawks receiving core. So
it's one of those crazy matchups where I could almost see like Russell Wilson rushing for more yards than he passes for.
Yeah, there's going to be a whole bag of tricks for both sides, I think.
Yeah.
So
do you have anything to say about the Brinton?
One of the things that's probably not getting talked about is probably the Patriots' run game. The fact that they're probably going to have to establish the run because, unlike in years past where Tom Brady's had this plethora of receivers, this year it's mostly Gronkowski. He's got LaFell's and Julian Edelman who's been playing well as well. But if they can establish the run with like LeGarrette Blount and Jones Gray maybe, that would obviously help out the Patriots a lot and probably soften up the defense and let the passing game get going. If they just try to pass it around from the start, that's not going to work.
Yeah, it's funny you said 35-31 because that was the Patriots-Ravens score. And I think the Patriots, if they can't establish the run game, could be forced into a similar strategy. And what you saw was, the Ravens' run defense is just as good as the Seahawks, really, I think, when Haloti Ngato's in. Now, the Ravens have a better pass defense. But
you mean Seahawks?
The Seahawks have a better pass defense. The Ravens have a better pass offense. So some of the matchups there could be similar, I think. But the key was the Ravens could not get any pressure on Brady. They sacked him twice on one drive. Other than that, they really weren't able to get any pressure. So I think that will be a key for them.
We make all these predictions now, but I'm sure they'll all be proven completely wrong. So we'll just have to see.
The score is 3-2.
Lowest scoring Super Bowl of all time. So I think that's everything.
I think we've wrapped it up. Everything in sports has been talked about. So far. And we'll keep you with the updates here on the Press Box. Once again, I'm Nathan LaPierre.
I'm Matt Newman.
I'm Brendan Randolph.
See you next time.
Press on. let's not make
DeMonte.